Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Jennifer Wakeman. In 1920, William Heiss of Mifflinburg closed the doors on his buggy factory forever. But when they were reopened in 1978, a museum was born. Bronwyn Sanders is the executive director of the Mifflinburg Buggy Museum. She gave me a little bit of museum history.
William Heiss was one of almost 90 buggy makers that called Mifflinburg home. But as the buggy makers went out of business, their buildings were emptied. They were torn down. William Heiss, particularly his son Norman, get the credit for saving all of the tools, all of the equipment. When Cool Snyder, our founding father, came back to Mifflinburg after teaching in New York State and started to talk about Buggy Museum and members had buggies made here in Mifflinburg, they said, let's look for a museum. Norman Heiss and his sons Owen and Glenn came to a meeting and said, well, do you want to see a buggy factory? And that's how it all got started, with the original buggy factory.
The town of Mifflinburg is synonymous with buggies, making it the perfect place for a buggy museum.
Mifflinburg was actually known as Buggy Town. Newspapers would refer to Mifflinburg's baseball team as the Buggy Town team. And this was in the 30s, when buggies weren't made here anymore. So it was a long-lasting legacy, but before the advent of the automobile, everyone was using a buggy. So this history pertains to everyone all over the place.
In addition to the buggy factory, there are 3 other historical buildings that are part of the Buggy Museum: the Heiss home, a carriage house, and a repository. All of them were owned by William Heiss and eventually passed on to his son Norman.
The oldest son Norman owned it until the museum took over in 1978. Norman used it for a time for his own businesses, but for the most part he used it for storage.
Tell me about the building we're in right now.
This is the Charles McCool Snyder Education and Visitor Center. It was built in 2000 with the help of the Dagenstein Foundation, the Edna M. Sheary Foundation, and a lot of our members and donors. It serves not only as a visitor center to orient our visitors to the site, but it also serves as office space, store space, curatorial space, archival space, and program space. This is actually meant to be a museum all in itself, so that if you come and you don't have time to go through our historic buildings, you can simply view this building, and you get enough of the flavor here at the Buggy Museum that you can go away with some knowledge, and that's what we're here for.
There are many things to see and do in the visitor center.
This is a Heiss-made buggy. This is a piano box buggy made by William Heiss in his factory. This is the Ford Escort of buggies. This is the most affordable, most popular model you could have. The visitor center is self-guided. You can come and spend as much or as little time as you like. We have a 7-minute video. You can read or not read the panels as you see fit. But to go through our historic buildings, it is a guided tour, which we find works best because you may come and know nothing about buggies and find yourself with 101 questions. And it's easier that somebody like me with you who can answer those questions.
Sanders offered to give us a tour of the historical buildings, starting with the Heiss home, which was constructed in 1870.
The house was built to be modest, inexpensive, no fancy trim, no fancy molding, no built-in closets, because all of that added to your construction costs. So all of the niceties that you see were added by the Heiss family over the years.
Members and volunteers restored the house to reflect what it most likely looked like at the turn of the 20th century. Many of the furnishings belonged to the Heiss family, including this pump organ, which belonged to Anna Heiss, William's wife. There were originally 5 bedrooms in the house, and 2 of the rooms were frequently rented to boarders. The children's bedroom was converted into an indoor bathroom, and unlike the rest of the house, the plaster has not been restored. Check out the small piece of original wallpaper left next to the tub. There are 2 sets of stairs and 2 parlors, a formal parlor and a family parlor. The museum has made allowances for visitors who may not be able to get up to the 2nd floor.
If people physically cannot go to the 2nd floor in our buildings, we have a photo album in every building and a place to sit. So that you can sit, you can look at the photo album, you see what's on the 2nd floor.
In the restored carriage house, there are examples of the 3 major buggy makers in Mifflinburg: Hopp, Gutilius, and Mifflinburg Buggy Company. There is also a surrey with the fringe on top that guests can sit in. This is used for buggy rides around town during Mayfest and other events at the museum.
A lot of our visitors have never been in buggies. They've never seen horse and buggy and harness all together. So this is an opportunity to see how it all works together and to get in a buggy and pretend to go for a ride.
After closing his buggy shop in 1920, William Heiss tried many other things. He had a livery, rented bicycles, sold Harley-Davidson motorcycles with his son Norman, and produced and sold honey. Honey making was his primary source of income for the last years of his life. While rendering wax for the honey business, Heiss accidentally caught the carriage house on fire. The Buggy Museum has had a lot of help in reconstructing this building.
This was built as a project, the masonry students of the Votech, the agricultural students of the high school, under the guidance of Donald Mintzmoyer, who had been an ag teacher at Mifflinburg and then went to Penn State.
The Buggy Factory is just up the hill from the carriage house. This section of it was rebuilt 8 years ago in what was an award-winning restoration.
We had an excellent architect in John Bowie and have in fact hired John again to work on the restoration of the repository, which is the showroom building. What we did is had to stabilize the building. The building, you'll notice, leans slightly. So we had to stabilize it where it is without straightening it because of interior wall surfaces. We actually strengthened the flooring on both floors. We reinstalled all of the knob and tube. Did a little of this, a little of that. Most of what we did, the average visitor will never realize because everything had to be stained and dirtied before it came in.
This portion of the building is home to a very special vehicle.
The truck is a 1923 Ford Model T. The Heisses built the cab and the body onto a chassis that they bought probably from the Mifflinburg Body Company, which was getting the chassis from Ford and building bodies onto them.
Mifflinburg Bank purchased the vehicle from an estate in Lewisburg when it became apparent that the museum could not afford to buy it. The truck still works and appears in several local parades throughout the year, and it's driven by the employees of Mifflinburg Bank.
All buggy factories, no matter how large or how small, are divided into 4 departments or shops: wood shop, blacksmith shop, paint shop, upholstery or trim shop. By this point in time, buggy makers are no longer hand making the majority of the parts. Most of the parts are machine made, mass produced, ordered in. So this is a little bit more of an assembly process, but not yet at the Henry Ford level.
Wheels and boxes were assembled in the wood shop before passing on to the blacksmith, where axles and other metal pieces were added.
It takes 2 to 3 days to assemble a buggy. So on the 3rd day, your assembled buggy went out one of your front doors and was pulled up the ramp to the 2nd floor for the painting and the upholstery.
The drying room now holds several well-preserved buggies of all types. It is called the drying room because this is where painted buggy parts were left to dry. Once the assembled buggies made it upstairs, they were taken apart, given 9 to 12 coats of paint, and then reassembled.
You paint wheels separately, paint undercarriage separately, paint the body separately.
Why does that feel inefficient to me?
Well, you want to make sure it all fits together, all your parts fit together, then you paint it all, then you put it all back together, because you want your paint finish to be perfect.
In the paint shop, paints were mixed and applied to all the individual parts of the buggy. The painter was the highest paid employee in the factory.
On average, William paid his male employees $1 a day. That was for 9-hour days, Monday through Friday, 6 hours on Saturday. He paid less, you worked a little less. Mifflinburg Buggy Company paid $1.50 a day for 10-hour days, Monday through Saturday. And that's 60-hour work week, $9 a week. That was pretty much the state average at the turn of the 20th century for most manufacturing jobs.
In the upholstery shop, the ladies ruled the roost, and Heiss had several women on staff.
He had 8 to 12 employees at his peak. Himself, his wife, his older sister, his 2 sons all worked here in the factory.
William Heiss did quite a bit of custom work on his buggies, from paint colors and trim to upholstery.
As a customer, not only were you choosing the model of your buggy, the color of your buggy, you were also choosing your seat covering and your seat stuffing.
The final building on our tour is the repository. It was built in 1895 to serve as a showroom for Heiss's buggies.
It's a 3-story building. This floor was used to store larger vehicles that were rented out and factory supplies, and this is the museum's collection of work vehicles. And then up on the 2nd floor is our collection of pleasure vehicles.
Over the years, it has served a multitude of purposes.
This was actually the showroom. This is where customers would come to look at finished buggies, hopefully to buy. William only used the room himself for about 6 years. So then he rented it to John Gatilius and Sons. They paid $2 a month in rent, used it as their buggy showroom. By 1908, William had the building electrified. He allowed a community dance to be held here. He rented the building to an athletic club, rented the 3rd floor to a hardware salesman. He allowed the National Guard to drill here, the Boy Scouts to meet here. He used the building for his honey business, and then in 1929 started to turn the building into an apartment house.
The repository is slated for some restoration this fall.
Through the generosity of the Dagenstein Foundation, we hired John Bowie, the architect who did the factory, and John and his associate Tegan Lewis are still working on the plans as to what we're doing. And we've gotten a grant through the Transportation Enhancement Act, which is federal highway funding, to restore the building.
Volunteers, members, and donors keep the Mifflinburg Buggy Museum running.
We have about 40 active volunteers, some who do the buildings and grounds maintenance. We have some volunteers who do the guiding for groups. We have volunteers who help. We do a summer history camp in conjunction with Mifflinburg Heritage and Revitalization and Preservation Mifflinburg. So we have volunteers who just come to do that. Some who help with some of our special events like Mayfest on May 19th, our garden tour on June 24th. We have committee people. So we have volunteers who do a lot of different things because there's a lot of different jobs here at the museum to make it work. We operate on a little over $80,000 a year, which is considered poverty level for museums. And there are some times when we struggle to really move forward. We've made a lot of leaps and bounds in the last 30 years that we've been here in collections care, but we'd always like to move ahead farther, faster.
The Buggy Museum is a great place to bring your kids.
This is kid-friendly. Although most of the historic buildings are fairly hands-off, we do have a workbench with tools and toys to entertain children of all ages. We also have a miniature buggy that you can build. It's a little 6-inch by 3-inch. We give you all the parts to build either a buggy or a sleigh, and you glue it all together, or you can take the kit home and do it yourself at home. We also do a scavenger hunt for school-aged children, that while you're on the tour in the buildings, the kids go along with us, but they're looking for specific things to win a prize at the end.
3,000 to 4,000 people visit the Buggy Museum each year, and most of them are from more than 50 miles away. If you're like me, you might have some misconceptions about the Buggy Museum. I hope this story has dispelled some of them for you. And here's one more little tidbit about the museum.
Like I said when we got here, I've lived here 18 years, never been in here, thought it was a room full of buggies.
Right. It is, well, we actually have a very rare collection. We are one of 12 industrial craft sites in the country. We are the only one that deals with personal transportation. We actually preserve the only intact 19th century carriage factory open to the public in the United States.
And it's in Mifflinburg.
And it's in Mifflinburg.
If you would like to see the Buggy Museum for yourself and hear a lot more about its history, you can visit Thursdays through Saturday from 10 to 5 or Sundays from 1 to 5 during the months April through October. It costs $10 for adults and $5 for children to take the tour. Check out their website, www.buggymuseum.org, for information on all of their events, including Mayfest on May 19th. Coming up next on In Your Neighborhood, we'll take you to a very unusual boutique in Northumberland County.